guys! So last week I talked about animals that I really wish that I could have, but I just can't right now for various reasons. But I figured that just because I'm not at a point in my life right now where I could have some of those animals doesn't mean that some of you guys might not be. So with that being said, let's talk about the tegu. The Argentine Tegu, or the black and white tegu, is one of my absolute favorite lizards because they're just amazing. Please keep in mind that this is not going to be a care video because I don't have a tegu as much as I would like to. So this is just going to be a bunch of really cool information about the tegu. The Argentine Tegu, or the black and white tegu, is the largest tegu species in the world. The males measure up to about 4.5 foot long, which is crazy. That's like the length of a human. And they come from South America. Obviously they come from Argentina, but they're also found in Brazil and Uruguay. In those regions, they live in rainforest or like right on the edges of rainforest in the savannas, but they're really adaptable and they can basically adapt to almost anywhere. Because of this high adaptability, they're currently an invasive species in Florida, which is pretty bad because it is definitely messing with the ecosystem down there. And it's thought that breeders or people that just own the tegus release them into the wild, or they've escaped, but somehow they've gotten out and they have quickly reproduced in the state of Florida. In captivity, these guys can be very docile. As long as you handle them down, they're generally really sweet lizards, as huge and terrifying as they might look at first glance. They are also very intelligent lizards. It is very common for tegus who have been raised properly to be attached to their human and to actually seek out affection from them, kind of like a dog. And I've always said that I'm gonna have a tegu one day and it's gonna have its own bedroom and it's gonna walk around my house like a dog. And that's actually kind of a normal thing as far as normal in giant lizard world goes. But keeping them in captivity, you need to have a tank for them that is at least 6 foot by 3 foot long. And that's bare minimum, so it's not really a lizard that everyone can just go and have. My locally owned pet shop actually has had one of these for forever, a little baby one, and every time I go in there I always admire it, and it's just so adorable, and finally it was sold. And I'm just hoping that whoever took that animal knows what all goes into them and knows how cool they are and knows how big they're gonna get. Now these guys actually aren't born solid black and white as babies. They'll actually have a green stripe down their head, and sometimes it'll fade into a brown color, and then as they get older they'll turn solid black and white, which I think is really cool. I always love to see the progression of reptiles because almost every reptile as they get older, they're going to change. And that progression is always really cool. Tegus need a huge varied diet because they'll eat just about anything. In the wild, they'll eat anything that they can overpower and take. As babies, it'll be bugs and bug larvae and anything like that. And then as they get older, they'll eat rats and mice, and in captivity, you can feed them chicken and beef and basically anything. And they are omnivores, so they'll also eat berries and vegetables and things like that, so they need a giant diet. And they are really large lizards, so they'll eat a lot of food as well. Now when an Argentine tegu is walking around, you'll notice that they flick their giant forked tongue nonstop, and they use that in the wild to hunt down their prey, a lot like a snake does. And I think that's awesome because I love snakes and I love lizards, so just watching them walk around and flicker their forked tongue is really cool. But just know that these guys are predators. Like I said, they will overpower and eat anything that they can get into their mouths in the wild. So if you're gonna get one of these, you have to handle it down because a 4.5 foot aggressive lizard isn't gonna be a fun thing to have in your house or in the vicinity of you, because those jaws are very powerful and you wouldn't want to bite from one of those guys. For some reason, it always fascinates me when lizards can swim. Like, I am in love with the crocodile skink and the caiman lizard because they look so cool when they're swimming. And the Argentine tegu is no exception to that. They are amazing swimmers and they can actually hold their breath underwater for a little bit while swimming too, which I think is really cool. I would never feel comfortable testing that. If I had an Argentine tegu, maybe put a kiddie pool outside and fill it up and let them swim around a little in the summertime to get that extra sun. But I just think it's a really cool thing because not all lizards can swim or like to be in the water or will just swim around. Just like most other reptiles, in the winter, tegus will hibernate, and they'll usually hibernate for about 6 months in the wild. They'll find burrows to go into, and they'll just hibernate during the winter. Again, most reptiles do. Not so much in captivity if your house stays about the same temperature year-round, but in the wild, most reptiles hibernate. Tegus are said to be one of the most intelligent reptiles on the planet. These guys can actually be house-trained as well. There are channels on YouTube that devote the channel to their tegu and just how smart and cool of a creature they are. Since I like to constantly compare these guys to dogs, another similarity, they do live 15 to 20 years. So just like a dog running around your house for 15 years, the tegu can do the same. So just a rundown of the basic care requirements for these guys. Like I said, this is not a care video, but I did want to go ahead and throw in just some basic care requirements for them, just like a quick fact sheet. If you're going to get a tegu, you definitely need to do so much more research than this, because this is not going to be enough for you. So like I said in the beginning of this video, tegus will need at least a 6 foot by 3 foot enclosure, unless of course you are going to have one run around your house. And I've seen multiple people do this where they basically make an enclosure out of a closet in their house, and there's some really cool videos on that. But they basically waterproof it and put heat lights and stuff in there, and they let the tegu run free. So if you're going to do that, awesome. Most people aren't going to be able to give a tegu its own room. So if you're going to put it in an enclosure, it needs at least a 6 foot by 3 foot as an adult. Now you can start off with them in a smaller enclosure, and as it gets bigger, up the enclosure. But I always find it easier just to get the reptile whatever tank it's going to need in the end, because it's going to save you money. And it's better just to go ahead and have that tank for it instead of running into problems later that might prevent you from providing optimal care for the animal. These guys are going to need basking lights and full spectrum UV lighting in their enclosures. They are from tropical regions close to the equator, so they like hot and they get a lot of sunlight in those regions, so they have to have that full spectrum as well. And their basking spot needs to be about 95 to 100 degrees. Now that is a very high basking temperature, and to achieve that you're probably going to have to use basking lights, ceramic heat emitters, heat pads, heat tape, or a combination of different things until you can get it where it needs to be, but also still provide some kind of heat gradient across that tank. And again, they are from South America, so they're gonna need a pretty high humidity since they enjoy rainforest there. So that humidity is gonna have to stay about 60 to 80%, which is a pretty high humidity, because if it doesn't stay at that point, then it can cause them problems shedding. So they also have to have loose substrate in their enclosure. Anything that holds in that moisture, cypress mulch, orchid bark, eco earth, something that's going to hold in that moisture but also allow them to dig. And it needs to be about 6 inches deep to allow for that digging, because they do burrow a lot in the wild, and so you're going to need to allow them that ability to do in captivity as well. Like I said before, they need a huge varied diet, so you're going to want to feed them meats like chicken and beef and crickets and bugs and things like that. You can occasionally feed them rodents, but you're not going to do that a lot, just because sometimes they have a hard time digesting the fur of rodents. But they need a huge variety of proteins, and then they'll also eat some fruits and vegetables, but they're going to need more protein than they do those fruits and vegetables. And like I said before, these guys are going to have to be handled a lot. You're going to want to handle them as much as you possibly can when they're babies, and that's going to make it easier for the reptile to bond to you, because again, tegus tend to bond and seek affection from their humans, and you definitely want that as opposed to an aggressive 5-foot lizard. These are an animal that can be kept in groups as long as there's not more than one male. However, that involves a copious amount of space. So unless you live in a very hot region and you're doing like an outdoor enclosure for them, it's going to be really hard to have a group of these guys. But like I said before, guys, this is not a care video. I did want to just go ahead and touch on some care points just in case you are getting a tegu or you're interested. But really, I just think that these are amazing lizards. They are one of my favorite, and I kind of just wanted to talk about them. So I'm thinking about making this animal spotlight sort of video a regular video that I kind of sprinkle into my channel every now and then, because I really like talking about animals, and just because I don't have them doesn't mean that I don't want to talk about animals that I love. So please let me know if you like this video by hitting the like button down below, and let me know what kind of animal you want me to talk about. I hope that this video was maybe at least a little bit educational, and maybe you learned something, or maybe you just wanted to sit around and talk about tegus with me. Either way, that's awesome. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. I put out new videos every single Sunday. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.